Everybody likes to think that they're in control, that they choose what to buy, who to trust, and even what they believe. But be honest, have you ever bought something you didn't need, agreed to a favor you didn't want to do, or made a big decision that, looking back was an obvious mistake? Well, that was not you making a conscious decision. You were being manipulated. And manipulation is everywhere, okay? It's in marketing, relationships, politics, even in just casual conversations. Every single day, people are nudging you in directions you never planned to go. That's why today we're breaking down 9 of the most dangerous manipulation tactics, how they work, why they're so effective, and how you can spot them before it's too late. Welcome to Alux, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. All right, now you probably think manipulation is something that only happens to other people. But the truth is, it's happening to you multiple times a day. We gotta talk about persuasion versus manipulation here. Because our brains are designed to take mental shortcuts. We trust what feels familiar, follow authority, and go along with the crowd sometimes because, let's be real, nobody has the energy to process every little detail of every little decision we have to make all the time. But some people, they know exactly how to exploit that. Most of the time, this happens in the form of persuasion, which is when someone guides you toward a decision that actually benefits you. Think a doctor recommending a treatment, a mentor pushing you to take action, or a friend helping you to see the truth. But of course, there's a darker side to persuasion as well, when someone tricks you into doing something that only benefits them. That's manipulation, and more often than not, it ends up hurting you. The scary part is, the best manipulators don't force you to do anything. They make you want to do it. So most people don't realize when they're being manipulated until it's far too late. That's why we want to show you these 9 manipulation tactics here today, to arm you with the knowledge that's going to protect you from scammers, fake gurus, and all-around toxic people. Because once you understand how manipulation works, you become immune to it. Okay, so for the first tactic, let's start off with a classic duo actually, scarcity and urgency. Have you ever bought something because it was only available for a limited time, or because there were only 2 spots left? Yeah, you're not alone. That's scarcity and urgency at work. When we think something is running out, it triggers our fear of missing out, so instead of taking the time to think, we panic buy. Now, when used ethically, this actually helps you to make better decisions. For example, concert tickets really are limited, and they do sell out fast. So reminding people about that is helpful. But a lot of other people just fake it. Those limited time offers that disappear in 10 minutes. Yeah, okay, hit refresh and see what happens. They're just trying to manipulate you into buying, so don't fall for it. If something is truly scarce or truly urgent, you can still take a moment to think. It's not the end of the world. Now, the second manipulation tactic is called commitment bias. As the old saying goes, give someone an inch and they'll take a mile. You see, once you agree to something small, you're more likely to agree to something bigger. Sometimes that can be a good thing. Like, imagine a personal finance coach gives you a free budgeting workshop. If it helps you save a bit of money, you'll think, hey, this actually works. So when they offer a full coaching program, you'll be more open to it. That's ethical persuasion, but the same principle can be weaponized. Just a few years ago, there was this company called Nexium that offered, self-improvement programs. They lured people in with a small introductory class, but once you got more into it, things got hella weird. Yeah, it was a literal cult, and a lot of people wound up seriously regretting that first class. So to protect yourself from something like this, watch out for escalation. If something keeps asking for more of your time, money, and commitment, take a step back and ask yourself, if they had asked for this much in the beginning, would I have said yes? If the answer is no, it's probably time to walk away. Then there's something called the bandwagon effect. So when everyone else is doing something, we naturally tend to sort of just go along with it. It's human nature, and a lot of the time it actually helps us. Like when a restaurant has thousands of real positive reviews. You don't have to try every dish yourself, you can trust the experience of others. That's persuasion done right. But here's where it gets dangerous. For every authentic restaurant reviewer, there's a shady drop shipper paying off an army of influencers to shill their product online even though they don't really use it. You think you're following the wisdom of the crowd, but the truth is, the crowd was fabricated to manipulate you. So, how do you protect yourself from the bandwagon effect? Simple. Don't outsource your decisions to the crowd, especially for your big life choices. Ask yourself, do I want this, or do I just think I should because everybody else does? Okay, so moving along now, have you ever heard somebody say that there's no such thing as a free lunch? Well, they've probably been victim to our fourth manipulation tactic, reciprocity. Because you see, when somebody gives us something, even if they say there are no strings attached, we feel an almost automatic obligation to give something back to them. After all, nobody wants to seem ungrateful, and in the right hands, this can be a great thing. Nonprofits, for example, often give out stickers, wristbands, or t-shirts to spread awareness, and this makes people more likely to donate in return. That's a win-win for everybody involved, and even better if it's for a good cause. But sometimes reciprocity gets out of control. The classic example is the guy who starts wiping your windshield at a red light without permission. They know exactly what they're doing, okay? The goal isn't to help. It's to guilt you or even intimidate you into giving them money. So remember that every gift you're offered is yours to accept or decline. And if you do accept it, a gift should be a gift, not a debt. So don't let anyone pressure you into giving something back, because true generosity doesn't come with a catch. Next up is authority. You know, doctors, scientists, experts. If somebody has the right title, uniform, or credentials, the human brain tends to give them some extra points. And most of the time, that's completely fine. If your doctor recommends a treatment, you don't have to spend hours fact-checking everything. You can trust that it's backed by years of medical research, at least most of the time. But the problem is, authority can be easily faked. I mean, anyone can throw on a lab coat and sell useless supplements. Anybody can call themselves a thought leader, and anyone can rent a Lambo to sell you a get-rich-quick scheme. That's a popular one these days, and it shows exactly how manipulation through authority works. It hijacks your trust and assumes you won't question it. So how do you ward off against this? Well, titles, degrees, and reputations are usually credible, but they don't mean anything if the person behind them is not the real deal. It never hurts to double-check if your lawyer is a Harvard graduate or a Harvard graduate. All right, so moving along here again, the sixth manipulation tactic is one of the hardest to avoid because you have to think in a completely different way than you're used to. You see, our brains don't usually judge things on their own. By default, we compare them to whatever came before it. So most of the time, this helps us to make sound, reasonable decisions. Like when a barista offers you a classic black coffee for $2 or a specialty latte with fancy organic ingredients for $5. The coffee is the affordable choice and the latte is probably the more enjoyable choice. But at the end of the day, you know what you're getting and both choices are fair. But when manipulation gets involved, that's a whole other story. Let's say you walk into a car dealership looking for a new ride. And first, the salesman shows you a model that came out 3 years ago. It's in mint condition, but it's $50,000. Pretty out there when that's about the average price of a brand new car. Then he takes you to this year's model. It's $55,000 and it has all the latest features. So compared to the first one, it feels like a steal. There's just one problem though. Both of them are way overpriced. The dealer artificially inflated the value of the first car so that no matter what, the second one looks like a better deal. But in reality, you're still getting ripped off either way. Protecting yourself from this one can be tricky. You have to resist your natural impulse to compare things and start judging them on their own. But one quick way to do it is before pulling out your credit card, ask yourself, would I still choose this option if I hadn't seen the other one first? Because a bad deal is always a bad deal, even if there's a worse one on the table. All right, now our next manipulation tactic today is called the mission trap. Because some people don't just sell products, they sell a vision for the future, and when that's backed up by a charming leader, it becomes almost impossible to resist. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Think about Steve Jobs. Apart from computers and iPhones, he was selling the idea of technological progress. Jobs made people believe that Apple products weren't just tools, but bicycles for the mind, a way to expand human potential. And it worked. That's persuasion. But what happens when the mission isn't real? Charles Manson, Jim Jones, David Koresh, we could go on. They were all charismatic leaders who used racial equality or religion or world peace or whatever to hook people into their cult. And by the time people realized it, it was too late. Everybody wants to believe in a cause, something that gives their life meaning, but nobody wants to end up in a cult. So it's never a bad idea to question if you're attracted by somebody's message or just their personality, and if all of that is simply a facade. Okay, moving on here again. So we mentioned Steve Jobs in that last one. He was great, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows with Apple. They do their fair share of manipulation too, and their favorite trick is the 8th one today, the illusion of choice. So do you ever wonder why it feels impossible to pick the right Apple product? Let's say you're looking for an iPhone for a decent price, and you start off with one of the models from a few years ago. It has everything you need, but not enough storage. So you upgrade it, and suddenly it's more expensive than last year's model, which has even more features. So you switch to that. Except, low storage again. Now you're back at square one, upgrading again and again until suddenly you gave all of your money to the fruit company for their latest and greatest magic rectangle. That's the illusion of choice, okay? And it's more common than you think. Imagine your boss introduces a new policy that staying late is now optional. Nobody's being forced to do it, but a few employees start sticking around, and suddenly they get the best projects and the big promotions. Meanwhile, those who stick to the regular schedule, they start falling behind. So even though staying late is technically an option, it's really the only choice. Classic manipulation. Now the trick here isn't to fight the system, because when it's your boss or history's biggest multinational corporation, there's really not much you can do. So instead, it's best to just see the system for what it is. Next time you're faced with a choice that isn't really much of a choice, maybe it's time to walk away. Maybe it's time to walk away. All right, so now we're on to our 9th manipulation tactic. This one's called the mere exposure effect, and it's probably the one you have to pay the most attention to, especially in this day and age. So it works like this. The more you see, hear, or experience a message, the more familiar and right it feels. So when it's used for public health and anti-smoking campaigns, or even brands simply advertising themselves, it's generally okay. Repetition builds familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. But the thing is, when manipulation is involved, the mere exposure effect becomes really dangerous, because you can make any false claim seem true just by sheer repetition. I mean, that's literally the definition of propaganda, right? So history is full of examples, but you don't have to look very far into the past to see this in action. Just scroll through social media right now. How many people believe news stories that simply are not true? And if you get caught up in that echo chamber where nobody questions anything, it's really hard to break free from it. Fighting back against this takes effort, because you always have to be looking out for it. Just because you've heard something 1,000 times before does not mean it is true. So if something keeps popping up in your feed, on the news, or in conversation, dig deeper, okay? Because that is one of the healthiest habits you could have here. At the end of the day, manipulation doesn't just happen in marketing, politics, or social settings. It happens everywhere. The beliefs you hold, the habits you form, even the financial choices you make, they're all influenced by the world around you. So are you making those decisions yourself, or is somebody else pulling the strings? Because here's the thing. Persuasion isn't inherently bad, it's just about who is in control. And when you become a more persuasive, more effective communicator, it doesn't just help you defend yourself, it gives you a powerful edge in every aspect of life. When you use it right, the ability to persuade is a superpower. That's why here at Alux, we teamed up with world-class experts to create the ultimate guide to communication exclusively inside our app. In this expert course, you're going to learn how to build stronger relationships, negotiate better deals, and present your ideas more effectively, but that's just the beginning. The Alux app is designed to help you level up in every aspect of your life. Inside, you'll find hundreds of exclusive lessons on wealth, business, personal growth, so you can think independently and make choices that serve you, not somebody else. And if you've got some big goals, our app will help you build a personalized action plan, track your progress, and stay motivated every step of the way. So it's like having a little coach or a board of advisors right in your pocket, keeping you focused, sharp, and always ahead of the game. If you're serious about taking control of your future, start today, okay? Download the Alux app and scan the QR code here on screen, and you'll get 25% off the yearly plan so you can start building the life that you choose. Hopefully, we've persuaded you to give it a try. And with that, Aluxer, we'll see you back here next time. Until then, take care, my friend.